How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the show. Ben, joined by Matthew, for what will probably be the most specific top five on this channel. That is the top five albums. We're each going to give our top five albums that came out today, May 5th. Now, that's not a lot to choose from, really. In the whole album era, post 1960, I could only find like 40 or 50 total. So there might be some repeats here. We haven't given each other our lists, but
I mean, you think the amount of bands there are, like there'd be an album out every day, 365 days a year, but
no. And the ones
doesn't work that way.
you'll see when we get to my list, but the problem apparently there's a bunch of albums out on May 5th. You go back a few years and there's nothing. And it just depends on whether or not May 5th is a Friday or not. So four of my top five are from 1 year. I can't help it. That's just, it's the ones I knew. So I guess you want me to go first, or you want
I'll go first.
Okay.
What should I pick first? What should I pick? I'll start with this one. I thought I hadn't really heard it for a while. It was a Robert Cray's Sweet Potato Pie from 1997.
Yeah,
have you heard that one?
I have, and I thought about putting it on this list.
It is a Grammy-nominated contemporary blues album. I picked this one because it was pretty, just looking into the album, doing the research aside from listening to the music itself. I like how this album was produced. It's just like the four dudes. I think they had one, maybe two guys producing it, mixing it, and that was it. Can't remember the bands, the individuals' names. I'd say my favorite song from this album was the closing track. It was I Can't Quit. That one's pretty good, man. But I like the covers. There's like three covers in there. There's like a Otis Redding one. Which ones? I think it was like the one in the middle. No, Trick or Treat, I think was the Otis Redding. I can't remember. The other one was the one in the middle was a cover too. I can't remember who sang that.
I couldn't tell you who the original artist was.
But I just love Motown music. So and it was made in 1997. So hard to find that kind of band in that kind of year.
I think given the research that we both had to do, we're both gonna know, like, oh yeah, you picked that one. Oh, you picked that one.
Yeah.
Especially given like most of this stuff is from within the last 25 years, for me at least, just because that was my lifetime. I have any frame of reference.
Yeah.
There was also one that was like, it came out on May 5th, and I was like, oh great, because it was by the Pixies, and I like the Pixies. But then I saw it was a compilation album.
Yeah.
It wasn't I was like, damn. All right, so my pick for number five is from 2017, Slowdive's self-titled album. Slowdive it's a shoegaze kind of late 80s, early 90s band. They had a short run, only like 3 records, of which I've heard a couple of them, and they're very pioneering within that sound, but then they went away like immediately afterwards. So you had a lot of bands like Swerve Driver and a couple other shoegazy type of 90s bands that were copying these guys' sounds because they did it better than anybody. And this, out of nowhere, after like a 23-year gap in their studio career, they just dropped their self-titled album, which I think, look how cool that album art is, man. That album art, awesome. I'll put it's up on the screen, obviously, for you guys, but that's exactly how this album makes you feel. I mean, it is just beautiful, spacey, melodic, sort of vaguely progressive rock sounding sort of shoegaze music. And they do it better than anybody. I mean, it's hard to even pick Stomo, the first track, and Don't Know Why, I guess, are particular highlights on an album that doesn't really have a miss. Pretty concise, 40, 45 minutes or so. Excellent. I wish the album art is so perfect. It's the most perfect.
When was it released?
2017.
Oh.
The most perfect album art and sound combination. That's exactly how this album sounds, is that lady in black just going like that.
We're talking about the Pixies. That kind of looks like that one Pixies album with the monkey.
Oh yeah, it does. Yeah.
Except it has less.
Yeah. But man,
it's
a fantastic album. I think that's one of the best albums that came out that year, setting aside May 5th. Oh,
Yeah. All right, dude. My next one's gonna be Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band. Stranger in Town was released May 5th,
yeah.
1975.
This is great. We're actually not having repeats yet.
So you know what I found most interesting about this album was that half the album wasn't recorded by the Silver Bullet Band.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was the Muscle Shoals rhythm section.
Cool.
SHOAL.
Yeah, I know they are.
Oh, was it Pete Carr? Is that the guitar player? Dude, he's killer. They play like aside from Hollywood Nights, Hollywood Nights. I think that was like the only the whole album's great, but the only Silver Bullet Band hit is Hollywood Nights. Like Old Time Rock and Roll, I think is. Let me double check.
Do you know why that is? Like, was it
they just decided to do it that way? Old Time Rock and Roll was the Muscle Shoals rhythm section. The famous final scene was the Silver Bullet Band, which is a funny title given that Old Time Rock and Roll is in that Tom Cruise movie, that iconic scene. What's it? Is it Jerry Maguire where he's like sliding across the room in his collared shirt and his
underwear,
socks, playing Old Time Rock and Roll. And that song is not called the famous final scene. Aside from their hits, I think my favorite is I had trouble picking.
It's a good album.
It's probably, I think the first, I prefer the Shoals over the Silver Bullet stuff. I don't know, still the same's on there. I go back and forth. I don't really have a favorite Bob Seger song. I think they do all kind of gel well together, but
I don't know. I haven't heard every Seger album, but that just off the top of my head, it definitely made like my top 5.
That's like 3 of the 4 songs of Seger's that come to mind. What's the Night Moves? I think that was on the album before.
Yeah.
Self-titled Night Moves.
Yeah, that's a great pick. I saw that one. That was the only one that came out May 5th that year. What was that, 74,
75?
Yeah. That's so funny. I know this is we're having this conversation within the frame of reference of like I intentionally was like, all right, I'm gonna pick some ones that like I don't think Matt will pick just because, and this is included on that. How about thrash metal legends Testament?
I was gonna put Testament.
Were you gonna put that on there?
Gonna put that because I'm like, I think I'm gonna mix it up on this list. Ben would appreciate it if I put Testament. I was like, nah, I bet he's gonna put it.
I did. Again, this is one of those instances where this is one of their best records that just happened to come out on May 5th. I love the premise of this list, man. This was May 5th, 1988. These guys are not my absolute favorite sort of band of that era. They weren't quite as big as like the big 4 of thrash. But this is probably their best in my mind. Definitely nobody would argue that it's not one of their best. Trial by Fire is probably the biggest song that the more casual fans who aren't really aware of these guys would know from like best thrash playlists and compilations and all that stuff. These guys, The Preacher and Day of Reckoning are pretty good songs too. The one thing about these guys' sounds that, even though I recognize they're very good at what they do, the production was always a bit trash, even by late 80s standards, right? They were all about the energy and the underground kind of vibe and all that stuff. Really, they could have used, a little more production on the production end. It's actually distracting how badly mixed and produced these songs are. Definitely some sick guitar riff and some shredding on this thing, but the vocals really aren't great by and large. Like this was, you got to forgive them because this was like 1988, recorded presumably in 87. That they didn't know that wasn't going to age well. That sort of Dave Mustaine kind of just raspy but not screamed metal vocals from like the late 80s and stuff. I really don't like it. But these guys are the best at that kind of music, even though it's not my personal absolute favorite. So that's my pick for number 4. The New Order. Sorry, I don't remember I said the name of that album. The New Order from 1988.
All right. So mine kind of stays in that 80s realm as well. It's Santana's My Largo from 92. Not my personal favorite of Santana. I love Santana, but I don't like, I shouldn't say like, it's not my favorite of theirs. They have a million albums. I think this is like their 17th studio album. So like you're bound to have a turd in that pile of gold they have.
It's no Black Magic Woman.
It's no Black Magic Woman. But dude, Carlos Santana just doesn't disappoint. Like the songs themselves, say what you will about them. But once he starts like soloing, you get lost in it. He just is that good. He can make a bad song great.
Oh yeah.
I'm trying to think. It's Red Prophet is probably the most notable song to me on that album. I think it's cool. It has that cool shuffle beat. Some of their, I guess, where there's he's singing in Spanish, they just kind of sounded a little redundant to me.
Yeah.
To their past music. They have some cool stuff on there. Some of it's just really like cheesy 80s kind of, I want to call them love songs because the message of the lyrics in some of these songs are not about, I guess it's about loving everybody, but not like I love you girl kind of song. But they have that like 80s like love song piano like key part under
the power ballad.
The power ballad
syndrome, yeah.
Synth, if you will.
Oh, I don't like it.
And I just don't like those.
It's too much. Makes me want to throw up in my mouth whenever I hear that.
And I read that album was a tribute to Miles Davis. Maybe they should have picked another album.
I mean, does Santana sing on it? Because he's at best like a B- singer.
Can't recall.
Because he's not fantastic. He's not great. So I'm gonna before I give my next pick, do you have any Chris Stapleton on your list? Nope. Okay, good. Because this was
the next one is Chris Stapleton.
Because I put this was such an obvious pick to me, at least. I was like, I bet you Matthew's gonna pick at least one of these. So I put them both on there. And I was gonna pick whichever one you didn't have as my. These both came out on May 5th. And he only, of his 5 albums, 2 of them thus far have dropped on May 5th for whatever reason.
It's probably related to, well, he's from Lexington, but he's probably like, I bet I could get a lot of Kentucky sales being around Derby time.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Even though both of those albums, he was already big.
Yeah.
By then.
So I'm going to pick, of these 2, I'm going to pick from Maroon Volume 1 from 2017. I had Traveler in the back pocket just in case. Matt picked the other one. All I did, if you look at my notes here, was I just listed the songs because that's all the notes I need. It's like, dude, this dude cannot stop writing hits. It's amazing. In the underrated lyricist episode that I did with Ryan on this channel, I listed not only the fact that he's got a bunch of hits, but I was like, here's all the other people he wrote hits for. And it's like 20 names, 25 names. It's incredible. So from Maroon Volume 1, he doesn't have a bad record. And when I say that, I really mean it. I mean, there's not anything less than a great record that he's put out thus far, which is quite a feat because he's 5 deep in his career. This one in particular, you had Last Thing I Needed, First Thing This Morning, Second One to Know, Broken Halos, Death Row, and my personal favorite, Chris Stapleton song, I Was Wrong. The most awesome, stripped back, blues rock. It's just listen to that song. It's like 2 minutes, 45 seconds. It's worth every millisecond of that is how good that song is. Unbelievably good. I was riding with Mike, who also appears on this channel one time. I was like, dude, check this out. Because I had just heard it. This was a couple years ago when it was new. And it got done playing. And Mike was like, that might be the best song I've ever heard. And it is that good. The one thing though, boy, I hate stems. Here's a note to everybody who writes rock music. Do not write about marijuana in your rock music. Every time they do, it's terrible. He has one, both. So Stems from a Room Volume 1 on here is terrible. But even Traveler, he said I might as well get stoned on there. It's the worst song on that record too. Don't write about pot. It does not make for good music. It's fun, but it's not good music. So that was
certain crowds it is.
I mean, look, it's a good time for some people, but boy, it doesn't ever make a good song. My least favorite Bob Dylan song is that one where he's like,
it's redundant.
everybody must get stoned. I'm like, God, it's so awful. And it's on such a good record too. So, I thought for sure you'd pick one of those. That's why I had a backup.
No, my premise of picking these songs were, I'm not going to pick any song. I try to stay within at least 10 years or older. So like 2011 to 0.
Year 0.
Anyway, so my next one was Paul Simon's. There goes Ryman.
Ryman Simon. Yeah.
The 73 album. And what can I say that hasn't already been said about that album? It's so popular in its time. It reached number 2 on the Billboards, only behind one artist who I will reveal in just a minute.
Okay.
Because he has my next album on here. That spoiler alert, they were not released May 5th this year. Got Grammy nominations for it. Quincy Jones did a string arrangement on that album. Yeah.
He was everywhere for a while.
If you wanted to make money in the music industry, just have Quincy Jones do it. I mean, he might take a good chunk of that money. He can still be doing a lot of the work, but
didn't he famously say the Beatles suck
I wouldn't be surprised
or something? And I was like, dude, come on, why you do? They don't. Come on, don't be that guy.
He probably didn't like them for being plain, like not plain, but
yeah, simple.
Yeah,
they were simple musically. That's fair. Yeah.
Quincy Jones' mind is, I'd say it's safe to say, he does not have a simple mind.
Mm-hmm.
He's has a lot of thoughts going on there. Yeah, man, it's just like Paul Simon music to me. I think what's it called? Was a Sunny Day.
Mm-hmm.
I think that might be my favorite on the album. Personally, to me, I just think Paul Simon, his music's kind of like Simon and Garfunkel was never like, they never broke up and went on to do their solo stuff. I just think the music, it's good, don't get me wrong, but it's kind of the same thing over and over again, even with his newer stuff. But I thought this album was good.
To your point, it's like you can tell who was carrying the more artistic weight in that duo.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
How many Art Garfunkel solo records have you ever heard?
And if you look at the credits for Paul Simon's records, all the songs are written by him.
Yeah.
He's not covering a song or collaborating with someone else.
Yeah.
He's credited to the song one way or another.
He was one of those guys. There was a slew of artists in the last year or year and a half who sold their whole catalog, and he was one of them. I think he got like $250 or $300 million.
I think that was Bob Dylan.
For his no, Dylan did too. Paul Simon did
for that much.
It was 200 or 250. Bob Dylan got like 500.
Was it? See, I thought Bob Dylan got like close to 3.
Was it? Maybe I'm thinking of something else.
I thought Bob Dylan got like a lot of money.
How's he going to live off only 100 million?
Poor guy.
I forget. You may be right. I know Paul Simon, not as much as Dylan, obviously. That's right, but still,
he has a big catalog, and I'm sure it was a big payout as well.
And then there was another one. I forget who it was. Gordon Lightfoot, I think, also just sold his catalog, rights to his catalog. Makes sense. Look, these guys are what, in their 70s? They'd rather have the money at this point than,
right.
But it's the reason I brought that up is it's testament to how good the music is that somebody, an investment group or a label is like, we think it's worth that because people are going to keep listening to it. So my number 2 is The Epic by Kamasi Washington, the band leader, saxophonist,
That's a good album.
all-around genius. I was so excited when I was looking at albums that came out on May 5th because it was only a handful that I already knew I liked. You know, there's so many groups that I'd never heard of. Some Swedish metal group put out a record. I'm like, well, I'd rather not take the time to listen to it and then decide I don't want it on the list. No question this was going to be on my list. This album is awesome. There are like 35 or 40 awesome jazz musicians featured throughout this thing's like 190-minute runtime. This thing is epic. That's why it's called The Epic. Yeah. It is fantastic. I've never honestly listened to it in one sitting because I don't usually have 3 hours in a day to listen to it, but I have listened to the whole thing in parts, in phases, usually about an hour at a time. And boy, it's fantastic. Some great playing, some awesome compositions, some even darker, more anthemic prog rock sounds can be heard across this thing too, in addition to the obviously skillful jazz composition and playing and all that stuff. Kamasi Washington is awesome. I think I personally prefer Heaven and Earth. Maybe I'm biased because I was the first one of his that I heard, but this is a close second as far as my favorite records of his. And it just happened to come out on May 5th, so lucky me. That was an easy pick to put it on the record.
Didn't even know that came out on May 5th. If I had, I would have put it on the list.
I was like, yes, I know that one. That's an easy go on the list. Same with Stapleton.
Oh, man. What other songs do you like on that?
What, of The Epic?
Mm-hmm.
Damn it, I wish you hadn't asked me that. My thing about this record is I couldn't tell you the fucking names of the songs because I just have it on the headphones and I've never looked at it while I'm listening to it. I mean, it sounds shitty to say that, but there's like a prog rocky bit, like 40-ish minutes in, where you get this like almost. I'm like, every time I hear it, I'm like almost like, damn, that's like he just got done listening to a Floyd record for this little build back up into the jazzy bit. I'll put on the screen what the name of that song is.
Comment below.
Yeah,
tell us what it's called.
I'll go back and look at the track list. I should have had that written down.
The times I don't listen to this album very much, but the times I do, because it's so long,
yeah,
I do it in road trips.
Especially
when I'm by myself. I've been in the car for 3+ hours by myself and one way, so those are the times I will put that album on.
He is fantastic, and it's rare that like how many saxophone players and band leaders are there that have great careers in modern music right now? You know, that have crossed over into the popular sphere in the way that he has.
And he kind of surrounds himself with some successful, like Terrence Martin did.
Thundercats on this.
Thundercat, yeah. Like just that. He's kind of, in a way, I don't know the exact history of Kamasi Washington, but like he's kind of like started his own like sub genre, if you will, collecting like all these great jazz musicians today. Like that's how all the great jazz horn and woodwind players like became who they were. Quincy Jones, going back to him being one of them. He was some horn player, and I can't remember whose band he was in. I think Miles Davis was in like John Coltrane's band, and
I thought it was the other way around.
Was it? No.
Who was in who's Miles Davis was in Coltrane's band?
Coltrane's older than
okay.
Davis. So I think it was that way. Shit like that. But that's how you get those good jazz groups. It's just stacking the team.
I'd love to see Kamasi Washington and Anderson .Paak do something. That seems like two guys whose styles would work really well together.
I want to say they have.
I
want to say they have just because they work with so many of the same people.
Thundercat obviously is. He's everywhere too. You can hear his bass all over the place.
You know a Thundercat bass when you hear it. All right. You want to guess who had the better album over Paul Simon in 1973?
That's when it came out?
But this isn't the album. The artist.
I was trying to remember looking back at like the list of May 5th albums, and I remember seeing, obviously, Paul Simon was on there, but I can't, off the top of my head, I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure.
It's Billy Preston.
See, I've never even heard a Billy Preston record.
He played keys for the Beatles, going back to the Beatles too.
Oh, okay.
For a lot of, he's a session musician with them, but dude, Billy Preston, you should check him out. This is my favorite kind of like soul funk album that I'm about to talk about.
Okay.
It's the Kids and Me, 1974. There's just, I'd say honestly, most of my favorite songs, a lot of his hits are on this album. There's that song Nothing from Nothing. He played that You Are So Beautiful song on there. There's this song, I think it's called Struttin'. He did, and just like Simon did, he's credited for all the songs. So, like on the credits list is like Billy Preston, and I can't remember the other guy, wrote every song except one not mentioned. And it's like, when it's not mentioned, Billy Preston's name is still. The other guy is forgotten about. The brothers Johnson, get back to that. They did that Struttin' song with Billy Preston. At least wrote it. I don't know if they played on that album. But it is just, the album in its entirety is awesome. It's the flow of it is great. I think it's like a 9-track album. If you have it on vinyl, I think like the first 4 or 5 are on side A, the other 4 or 5 are on side B, and the flow of it is such a peak and valley kind of album. It just like starts off super funky. You're already at the top of the mountain, and it just keeps going up and up. And then like by song 3 or 4, I can't remember if You Are So Beautiful. That's kind of when you get into that valley, because it's just like a nice ballad. And then it get to the other side of the album, song 5 or 6, and it's starting to get up a little more. Blanking on the songs off the top of my head.
People are going to think we didn't actually listen to these.
I know.
It's because I only ever listen to the whole record. I don't pick like a song out of a list and just click on it. So I never remember the names.
Right.
That's why I write the names down, because I always forget. I assume you're the same way.
Yeah.
I like to listen to a whole record.
Some names are hard to remember, especially when you don't like them as much as other songs.
Yeah.
That's definitely worth, out of my list, dude. If you're gonna listen to any of it, that's the one to listen to.
Billy Preston. I've never heard of Billy Preston Project. I'll have to check that out.
He is killer. He is one of my favorite pianist, keyboard players, if not of all time.
That'd be a good list. Maybe we should do top 5 like supporting members of a band for a video. Like not the singer, not the lead guitarist, but like who adds the most to a band, who isn't like the flashiest. Like he doesn't play lead guitar or anything, he doesn't sing. Who's the best bassist?
That Coltrane group. You can't call out Miles Davis.
Yeah, oh yeah, that doesn't count.
You can't do that.
All right, so my number 1, I would be interested to know if you've ever heard of this guy, is Brother Ali, All the Beauty in This Whole Life. Came out in 2017.
See that one.
Cool album cover too.
Yeah, that's nice. I have not heard of him.
So not A-list by any means. This guy's got probably 4, maybe 5 records to his name, and he's instantly recognizable visually because the dude he's a black dude that's got albinism. So he looks very distinctive looking guy. But man, he pen to paper, own light, special effects, and Uncle Uzi taught me are some of his best songs, and they all appear on this record. He covers so much stylistic ground here. He can go rapid fire, lyrical, super fast hip hop. He can do that as well as anybody. But then also he can do some really intensely like thoughtful, slower, more mellow hip hop just as well. And he uses acoustic instrumentation a lot on this thing, which I love when hip hop projects do that. I can't stand just washed out, compressed as hell bass and, just basic clicky, hi-hat pattern. It turns me off immediately. This guy, it's very jazzy. You can tell, obviously, they're performed drums by a really good drummer. It adds so much to what is the delivery of a great rapper. I think extremely underrated, this guy. It's the right length. There's a couple weaker tracks that aren't, they just don't do anything. They don't go anywhere. They're only like a couple minutes long. It feels like it's kind of a half-baked idea. But if there's two of those, for every two of those, there's like 10 awesome ones. It's a pretty long record. It's like maybe an hour, maybe a little over an hour. And I think this was his most commercially successful to date. And I'm not surprised at all. Some very catchy, despite the fact he didn't really sing anywhere on this thing, there's some very catchy, sort of instantly recognizable choruses as well. I think this guy needs a bit more attention in the hip hop world, because he's bringing together some jazz. You know what? Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, he's very much what made Anderson .Paak famous in the last 4 or 5 years. I think, admittedly, Anderson .Paak does it a bit better, but this guy has some better verses than I think Paak does when he's rapping. And he's going back to the basics of hip hop with just like a dude who I assume has like an afro with a comb in the afro and doing the brushes and some cool stuff. It's so cool, man.
That's Billy Preston, man.
Oh, is it?
Billy Preston has this big old fro, dude. Like on like, I don't know if all of his albums, like 2 or 3 that I'm thinking of off the top of my head. It's just like his face in his fro. That's the album cover.
You were talking about the Brothers Johnson. They both had some fros back in the day too. Man, he was a great bass player. We were talking about bass players a minute ago. Whoever that bass player was in Brothers Johnson, it was one of them, I think.
One of the Johnson brothers.
One of the Johnson brothers. But yeah, Brother Ali, I don't know that he's done a lot lately. To my knowledge, he didn't have a studio project after this one. But this was a high point for his career. I was looking forward to seeing where he goes next. Hopefully he'll put something else out, because I mean it's just fantastic. It's hard to say. I mean, it's not like it's mind-blowingly different than other things. It's just so well executed in that style. And that was what I put it. That's my vote for the best album ever to come out on May 5th. A small list. Only like 40 or 50 in the history of popular music that I could find to choose from. So, man, this was Matt's idea. That was a tough one to research. I'm glad there were a few like Stapleton and Brother Ali and Kamasi Washington that I at least recognized. But as a result, all but one of mine are from the year 2017, when there was a bunch on a Friday. They dumped it all.
I had a few honorable mentions.
Yeah,
that were 2017. What's his name? I cannot pronounce his first name. He's from Israel. It's a jazz album. This one I wanted to put on, but then I thought it was like, it's like 4 years old. I'll give it some more time. It's like Avishai Cohen, I think.
Okay.
It's Avashai, Avashi Cohen.
Yeah.
He has some cool music. He's a trumpet player. In this one album, I can't remember, something with your palms. It's like his second album he put out. It was pretty cool. It's super laid back, pretty standard, somewhat boppy jazz. Honorable mention for me.
Off the top of my head, if I had an honorable mention, I know there was an Afghan Wings record that came out on May 5th. I can't remember the name of it, but I thought that was pretty good. I thought about putting that on there, but I've never heard the whole album, and I didn't really have time to go back and listen to it because it's pretty lengthy, like 65 minutes. And I was like, I don't really want to put one on there that just off the strength of the artist, not actually having heard the, I'd feel bad about that. Yeah. Well, did you have another honorable mention or just that one?
I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. This one was tough, man. The whole like idea, me and Ryan, we just like, let's do videos on like the most specific topics, specific lyrics or specific days that music came out. That's interesting, man. It definitely is not generic, like just top 5 blues albums or whatever.
We'll
So-
have to get the 3, if not the 4 of us, together maybe next time. That
Yeah, for sure.
do the supporting musician.
That's a great one. Yeah. That we
I like that idea.
We can get them to come here. There's space at least. Get a couple more chairs. Yeah. Look out for that. When we can get the 4 of us together, we'll definitely put that together. But for now, that'll do it. So Matt, thanks for being here. Thanks for watching.